Labor will support this bill. It is an interim measure. It is sticking plaster. It's a patch over until the government progresses the Australia-New Zealand Therapeutic Products Agency, which was to be set up under a treaty that was signed between Australia and New Zealand in 2003. So it's not a comprehensive overhaul of the Act, but a couple of little measures to progress it along the way, after being delayed by political posturing for almost 7 years. Why was there a need, in fact, to even look at a joint agency? And I did mention some of this in the committee stages. But we needed to resolve a special exemption for therapeutic goods under the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Arrangement in a manner that facilitated the Trans-Tasman trade and to enhance CER between Australia and New Zealand. You see, it was one part of CER that had not been resolved in the late 1990s. And the difference between New Zealand and Australian systems for regulating therapeutic goods was so different that it necessitated a special exemption. And that special exemption was given in 1997, 1998. We were then required to work on getting rid of this exemption, and we could have done it in 3 ways. It could have been a mutual recognition, a permanent exemption, or harmonisation of regulation. It was decided by the then national government in 1999 when the New Zealand and Australian health ministers agreed that they would go down the harmonisation track for regulatory requirements for therapeutic goods as the best option under TTMRA. And so the then Minister of Health, Wyatt Creech, started the process towards a joint agency between Australia and New Zealand. That was when they had members of Parliament who were sensible, who were prepared to look at the trade issues and the health issues and to progress them in a sensible manner. But unfortunately, when there was a change of government and a change of spokespeople, it became nothing more than a political plaything for the then spokesperson, now the Minister of Health. And play with it he did, to the extent that he was able to delay the passage of any part of this bill until today under urgency. And Marianne Street set out a very good record of what happened when she was a new Member of Parliament coming into the Health Select Committee with Tony Ryle there as the opposition spokesperson, watching how they'd gone from supporting an agency in government to opposing it now in opposition. And the irony of this, and I'm sure members who are on that committee will understand the irony, that the bill on the order paper that will set up this agency, the very bill, was in my name, 2007, and not one word of it has been changed. The very things they railed against, that went out on the street and argued against, it was evil, it was bad, it could not be done, is the very bill, number 47 on the order paper, my name taken off and Mr. Ryle's put on. Well, what an irony that is. It must be one of the biggest U-turns and piece of political cant that I have ever. It's an S-turn. Oh, an S-turn. Well, I think that's right. Yes, it was an S-turn. And it very much suits this particular minister. You see, the shame of this is that many of these good things that are going to be in this bill could have been done all those years ago. And I agree with my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway. We have got some wonderful health professionals in New Zealand. Health professionals who, with the changes made here in prescribing, could be out there providing enhanced services, particularly in rural and provincial New Zealand, in specialised areas of health, held up because it wasn't important enough to pass. But under urgency today, we now need to pass it in a hurry. Well, it makes a nonsense of this government's legislative timetable, but it makes an even bigger nonsense of their hapless Minister of Health, who for purely political reasons held up this joint agency. And I will be interested to see if the Honourable Christopher Pyne, the now Leader of the House in Australia, the Prime Minister Tony Abbott, who gave so many concessions to New Zealand to ensure that we had a fair deal, will be prepared to sit around the table and give them back to us again. They're going to say, hey, can we be sure that you'll do it this time? I think they will be very reluctant to go down this track unless there's some assurance. Well, the assurance we can give the government is we won't be playing politics with the joint agency. We will be looking at the greater good for New Zealand, and that is what they ought to do. All I can say is shame on Tony Ryle. This delay is his delay.
I call Kevin Haig.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a good bill. It's largely technical.